A fresh leg of American lamb is an economical and flavorful cut that offers a variety of creative uses. A boneless leg roast, or BRT, bone rolled and tied, is a favorite of many chefs because it can be stuffed with a range of ingredients or simply roasted and sliced. Because domestically raised sheep are often finished on a grain diet, the meat has a mild yet distinctive flavor. Thus, fresh American lamb is not too strong and marries well with other ingredients and spices. Today we're going to begin by preparing a 3/4 or shortcut leg. This basically means that the sirloin end has already been removed. In some instances we could do the same thing with a full leg. Some chefs debone a leg in sections. I'm going to use a method where I just channel the whole femur bone all the way out and then ultimately removing the H-bone. To start, I'm going to start at the shank bone and simply follow the bone with the tip of the knife, removing the meat. By doing this will give me a handle to use as I work my way over the joint, as well as following along the femur bone. By having a handle, I can lift the leg, and as I cut, the meat simply falls away. Once I get over the joint portion, I'm going to feel with the tip of my knife for the femur bone and follow along, working my way up towards the H-bone. Again, on the other side, doing the same thing, working with my knife, following as close to the joint as possible and bone as possible. Work my way over that joint, ultimately butterflying the meat away from the leg. By lifting it, it allows this large portion of meat to fall away with the weight of it by just basic gravity. Again, grabbing my handle, cutting underneath, and allowing the meat to simply fall away. Once I have the femur up and out from the actual leg itself, I can turn it around and again use that as a handle to follow along the H-bone and remove that as well. So in one swift move, we've taken out the shank, femur, and H-bone. I can set that aside for use in a flavorful stock. At this point, what I would like to do is separate the shank portion of the meat by simply cutting straight across. Now, some other options we could have done was cut through the shank joint and leave the bone in for a flavorful braised lamb shank. In this instance, at this point, we can do one of two things with a boneless shank. We can dice it for stew meat, or simply remove the outer membrane or fel, and then we can place that in the center of the roast, because a long, slow roast at a low temperature will help break down some of the collagen in the meat. However, the collagen in this working muscle lends itself well to combination cooking methods such as stewing or braising. One thing I want to do for sure when I'm doing a BRT is where the top and bottom rounds meet, there's a very fatty pocket that contains a gland. So simply by following the natural seam and using the tip of my knife, we can remove that fatty tissue that contains a gland. That gland would lend an off flavor to our finished roast. At this point, I'd also like to trim up the roast so that it comes out nice and even and straight. Any of the trim, of course, we have mostly usable trim here. Some of the fell I'd want to remove, and then that way I could, again, do either stew meat or ground meat for flavorful patties or ground lamb sausages. Placing the shank meat in the center, we can now roll this up, roll it tight, take our butcher's twine. To begin, we take the butcher's twine and simply go underneath, and we want to tie it at a starting point. Tying or trussing a leg of lamb will be wonderful to keep its shape, or if we had a stuffing, it would allow us to hold the stuffing in during the cooking process. At this point, I'll use my thumb and hand as a guide. Simply take the butcher's twine, bring it over my fingers, twisting it, and then that allows me to lift the meat, go underneath, and I want to go at about 1 inch to 2 inches in length, and then pull it tight. And I'll continue to do that through the whole piece. At this point, flip it over, take your measurement of about 1, 2 lengths of string, cut, basically come over and under our initial loop, over and under, over and under, back towards the top, ultimately tying it off. And there we have a wonderful American BRT leg of lamb, ready for seasoning and roasting, slicing and enjoying.